Welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. I just want to say welcome back to Cavanaugh's Corner. Today, as you can tell, we're shooting in a little bit of a different location here. This is not a new set or anything. I'm house sitting for my girlfriend this weekend, and so I kind of wanted to shoot this video here because this is an extremely different review for an extremely different movie that I'm going to be reviewing today. This movie is probably the only film that I have reviewed on the channel that is shot in an extremely different format, and it's done by one of my favorite directors. I'm actually wearing a David Lynch Absurda brand shirt today. And of course that is his last shot feature film, which is called Inland Empire here, and hopefully he'll make another movie at some point, but this is the last feature that he did to date, and this is an extremely bizarre movie. If you've seen this film, you know that this is one of these movies that you just can't describe to somebody. You have to experience it. It's a 3-hour film. And I have seen this movie twice, this being the second time, and it is such a bizarre film. The movie just is all stream of consciousness because that's really the way the movie was written. I saw this movie probably for the first time about 5 or 6 years ago, and it is just one of these movies that boggles the mind. And you have to see it to believe it. It's such a strange experience of a film. As I mentioned earlier, this review is going to be a little different. This is the new Criterion Collection Blu-ray. It is a 2-disc set, and if you follow me on TikTok, you probably saw me unbox this. The first disc has the film, and the second disc has all the special features, and it also has this booklet as well. And this is the booklet here that has an interview as well as some photos, and most interestingly enough, I'm gonna insert this in here. I've never seen anything like this, but it actually has a drawing of how they did the transfer of this film. And this is such a bizarre thing because the way they did this new transfer is almost as confusing as the movie itself. Now, this movie was shot on a format called mini DV, and that is like a little tape. And I have used mini DV in the past, and it is a very bizarre, it's a very simple format. It's not even high definition. It was actually standard definition. So this movie started in mini DV, then was transferred to SD video, and that was edited, and then the SD video, which is 29.97 frames, again, almost 30 frames per second, was put in an assembly version, and then they did the color correction, the special effects in about 24 frames per second, did a conversion. Then they converted it to 35 millimeter film, and that was transferred to HD as a video file. They then downgraded it to an SD intermediate, so a standard definition intermediate, and that was taken into a color enhancement software called Topaz that uses artificial intelligence. Very interesting. And then from there, they made it into 4K. They transferred it to 4K, so they had the whole clip of the movie in 4K. They did a quality check with David Lynch, and then they did color correction and tried to minimize the grain and everything, and then we get the new director-approved 4K master that you get on this disc. Interestingly enough, the 4K master is downscaled yet again because this is just a standard Blu-ray. It's downscaled to 1080p. Now the funny thing is that I watched, obviously the disc here, which is in 1080p, I watched it upscaled to 4K, and it's such a strange thing when I talk about the video quality, which we'll get into now. The video quality on this disc, you have to judge it differently from most motion pictures, especially on the channel here. I review, some pretty big budget movies, whether they be from 40, 50 years ago or from 12 to 15 weeks ago. I review all different stuff on this channel in terms of home video, video quality. And this one's really weird because if you just heard me describe this crazy path that this film took to get to this Criterion Collection Blu-ray and that new 4K transfer, we have to remember that this was shot on a very simplistic home video format before it went through all this transformation. So this movie does not look like Blue Velvet or Eraserhead or anything like that. The movie also changes colors a couple times. It actually starts in black and white and then goes to color. But the fact that this was shot on mini DV, we can't judge it in the way that we would judge like a James Cameron film like Avatar or, a Marvel Studios movie. This is not shot that way digitally. This is made on a Sony camcorder on mini DV tape. And for that reason, I can't be as harsh on this movie as some of you may be. The movie looks as good as it's going to look on this format. I mean, it's not going to get any better than this. And I very much doubt this movie would look better on a 4K disc, which is probably why Criterion didn't waste their time on a 4K disc with this. Even though there is a 4K transfer, the movie looks like it was shot on mini DV. Now, that color correction and stuff that they put the movie through really does help a lot. It looks really good for mini DV. I mean, it is blurry at times. It does have that handheld thing. And the movie is shaky at times. It's just the way that David Lynch shot this movie. I mean, he was the one holding the camera most of the time. And there are close-ups in this movie where the camera is probably like a quarter of an inch away from the actor's face. He was a madman making this movie, and I loved it. I love the fact that he went that route with this movie. He did things with the camera that, again, a lot of major filmmakers just don't do, and he went that far. And I give him credit. It's a very different film. But you also have to understand that that mini DV leads to artifacts in the video that you don't see on a modern shot digital movie. Most movies now, when they shooting with red like 8K, 4K cameras, 6K even, you don't see that noise. And they did a really good job with this transfer on reducing that noise. Now, I have this film also on the original DVD. It was like a 2-disc set when it originally came out on DVD. And comparing the two, it really is night and day. The video quality on this is much brighter, much more lifelike. The colors are so much better now. They've enhanced the colors on this a lot. And again, it's not a 4K disc, so there's no high dynamic range or anything like that. There's no HDR, but you can tell that they cleaned up that video as best as they could. It's still not great in some of the dark scenes. It looks a little weird, but again, with that mini DV format, that can capture dark scenes very differently than what a 35mm camera can. And it gives it a very different look, and different really is the main word for this review. I thought for this film, it looked fantastic. Again, your mileage may vary. I've seen this movie once already. Now, again, judging from what I've seen in a different transfer, it's just a far better transfer. Is there still that digital noise, that grain that you see? And again, it's not film grain, it's like video grain. It's very weird. It's been delineated in a way that's not really affecting the movie Totally. There are some shots that I noticed the digital noise reduction a little more than others, where it just seems like a little waxy, a little blurrier. But again, it does look very good for the format that this was shot in. The detail level is a huge step up from before. And as a whole, the movie just looks better. Now, the other thing to keep in mind with this disc is that David Lynch also did a 5.1 surround mix for this movie, as well as an original uncompressed stereo track. The sound on this movie, I listened to it in the 5.1, is fascinating because David Lynch and two sound engineers, Dean Hurley and Ron Eng, they both supervised the remaster of the sound, both tracks. And it is really amazing. This movie has a wild audio track because you can really tell what was recorded on location with simple mics and what was done in post. And the music, the atmospheric kind of sounds that David Lynch and the engineers did in this movie, it is really amazing. Lynch's films all have incredible audio. This one here is wild. It has this very eerie, ambient kind of sound all throughout. The music comes and goes. It's very, very different, again, but it really puts you in this film and ramps up the horror and the psychological parts of the film. Very interesting. And the music, again, everything sounds incredible. The dialogue sounds great, but the other thing you have to keep in mind is that that dialogue that was recorded either directly through the audio on the camera or by a separate microphone, that audio that's there is not really touched very much, and you can kind of tell it was all there on location. The stuff that was done after the fact, it's deathly apparent which one is which, but it still sounds really good and authentic. The audio is true to what David Lynch went for with this movie, and that's really all you can hope for on one of these discs, is that it turns out the way that the director intended. Again, this movie is not everybody's cup of tea. It is an extremely bizarre film. It's a tough sit. I'm not going to lie. 3 hours of just, scene by scene kind of stream of consciousness type of stuff. It's very, very odd. And, David Lynch wrote this movie and shot it over the course of I think it was 2 or 3 years. And he did it a scene at a time, which is why this movie is just all over the place. And, watching the documentaries that come with this, there are two kind of short films. One's called Lynch, and the other one's called Lynch 2. And these are the same guys that did David Lynch, The Art Life, which is another great documentary about David Lynch's life leading up to Eraserhead. And this second disc that's on here has a ton of special features, including those two documentaries. I think the first Lynch is an hour and a half or something, and Lynch 2, I think, is about 30 minutes. Lynch 1, I don't think has ever been available on anything, so that is really cool that they put that in here. Lynch 2, I think, came with the Inland Empire DVD back in the day. I'm fairly certain of that. It was on the second disc on that one. There is also a brand new conversation between Laura Dern and Kyle MacLachlan, which is really, really cool to see. Hearing them reminisce about their time with David Lynch and their experience making films with him and each other. That was really cool. The biggest thing on the disc, though, is that they did include a feature called More Things That Happened, which is basically a movie of all the deleted stuff that didn't make it into the final film, and it's about 75 minutes long. So it's another hour and 15 minutes of stuff that didn't make it into this movie. I've seen it before. I watched it again for this, so I put in a lot of time for this, guys. That's why it took a little bit longer to make this video. It's not like the deleted footage from Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, where you can kind of tell where they go. This is just like a mishmash of all kinds of different stuff. It's interesting to see, especially if you really like the movie, but you can kind of tell why certain things were not put in. They really don't fit as far as my opinion goes, but it is interesting. There is a short film called Ballerina. It's really just a girl dancing around in a red ballerina outfit for like 20-something minutes. And there's also a trailer and a reading of excerpts from a great book that came out a couple years ago called Room to Dream with Christine McKenna and David Lynch. It's kind of like a reading of some excerpts from that book, so that's in here as well. And it also comes with, again, that booklet inside. There is one special feature, however, that got left off, and it's so disappointing that it got left off this set. And that is, of course, David Lynch making quinoa. And that is such a treasure of a special feature from the previous DVD that I can't understand why they couldn't make room for that on here. It's just amazing that they didn't fit that in here. I mean, it's literally like 20-something minutes or 30 minutes or something of David Lynch making quinoa. And to me, that is the most important thing we could ever see from David Lynch, is him making quinoa. I can't even say that with a straight face, I'm sorry. Really a great set here from Criterion. Again, I enjoy this movie. I do not watch it very often, but it is one of those movies that kind of inspires me that, this big filmmaker just went out and kind of did his own thing and made a huge movie on a little camcorder. It really is kind of inspiring, even though it is a very bizarre film. I do enjoy the movie. It's wild and crazy and just mind-blowingly confusing, but I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the movie, and again, this new Blu-ray transfer here is pretty much the best we're going to get with this film. I mean, again, it's far and away better than that old out-of-print DVD, and I recommend it. I think it's worth picking up, in my opinion. If you do not like David Lynch, or you're not a fan of ethereal, mind-bending films, don't watch this movie. It's 3 hours long. But if you are a fan of Lynch, this is kind of a necessary pickup. You kind of have to get this movie. And I think you'll enjoy it if you're a fan. If not, stay far away from this thing. But that's it for today's review, guys. As always, if you like this review, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel below. If you want to pick up Inland Empire on this Criterion Blu-ray, I'll leave a link in the description below. And if you use that link, I do get a little kickback here on the channel. It really does help me out so I can keep making videos like this for you. Again, Criterion does not send me these movies. I have to buy this with my own money, and thankfully I pre-ordered it and got it on release day. So that's really it for today, guys. I wish you all the best. Please stay safe and take it easy.